Hello, welcome to the presentation of Matthew Corbett's Fall 2018 CS 6440 Educational Technology Project presentation here. Really quick agenda, 4 steps. So first we'll go over the problem that I was trying to solve with the LMS and the paper submission that I'll outline afterwards. The solutions, again, one of which was the paper, one of which that was the draft prototype learning management system that you'll see presented, and then some of the content in which to design 1 month's worth of the proposed continuing education credits for an Army intelligence analyst. So we'll start with the overall problem that's outlined inside the paper as well. The problem is that the Army has an occupational specialty or a job that requires learning that needs to be constantly updated. And that is a problem because there is no current system, digital or regulatory, that requires continuing education for Army intelligence analysts. Army intelligence analysts can go to jobs that have nothing to do with Army intelligence analysis, stay there for 3 years, and then be transferred to other organizations anywhere else in the world and be expected to have a certain level of proficiency in their job, a certain level of familiarization with current events and current doctrine and current enemy threat systems, so to speak. If they've gone 3 years in some cases without any continuing education, we cannot guarantee that. And this is overall a way to get after correcting that problem. So 3 solutions I've outlined to said problem. The first of which was a paper and I'll show you here, a paper for submission to Army-specific intelligence journals. And these are not the technical computer science type journals that maybe the final paper was written for. This is a different audience, written to pose a question and then a potential solution. And you can see here the 4 or 5 pages that I've written for submission, and a lot of it's in Army lingo, and is included with the final project submission outline is a copy of this in its current form, post rough draft and final analysis. In it again, we outline whether or not we meet the analytical standards to be considered professionals that the Army poses forward, and whether or not it's the unit's responsibility to come up with internal programs to keep analysts proficient. I believe it is not. I also believe that the Army, through what I suggest here, should come up with doctrine, which is prescribed requirements that Army intelligence analysts should have to meet. And again, the table here shows suggested point table or score levels for different types of activities that can be mandated to meet what I suggest to be a minimum 10 credit hours, if you will, a month. And all of this is just to get the idea forward that the current system is inadequate and that a new system needs to be designed and implemented. And I believe it does as such. So now, the meat of the project, however, the design part of it was that to design a prototype learning management system that could be deployed on the cloud and used via mobile devices as a proof of concept that this particular learning management system is easy to make and easy to use. So I'll walk you through from 2 perspectives. One is the student, in this case the intelligence analyst who is required to conduct the training, and then from the admin, which is the local unit leader that's administering and evaluating the training. So I will log in as an analyst I set up specifically for this demonstration that has no actual activities conducted, so you can see it clean. And again, this is the splash page for the prototype learning management system with a basic user that I set up a few minutes ago. On the right side is some functionality that Moodle allows, and Moodle, I haven't mentioned it before, was the backbone that allowed the creation of this LMS. They've done a lot of the work, so the cloud enablement, the mobile enablement, and some of the framework on which I overlaid what would become the prototype. And here you can see that this sample user has been assigned 1 month's worth of requirements, so January 2019, an upcoming month that doesn't exist. If they go inside their requirements, which again you could do via mobile, but this is on a desktop PC, there are, for the current month, 4. So to review a new manual, and this is a real-life manual, and acknowledge completion, and we will do that now. And then after they have read said manual, they can do that and acknowledge that they have read this particular manual. And then, so another doctrinal refresher, they can pull up a briefing And this is a briefing that was created to familiarize analysts with a new templated type of threat that they should be exposed to. Every analyst should see this and should understand it, so it's become a part of the monthly training that I've shown here. And as it opens, just to show you that it opens embedded, a lecture briefing. This no audio, just pure slides that goes through changes to some of the doctrine that analysts have to understand. And then after completion again, that'll mark off that they've completed viewing the presentation, and then a quiz. So they get to attempt quiz based on the briefing they just had, and they can punch in, and I'm not going to worry about the actual answers, although I have made them doctrinally correct to the presentation you just saw. But for sake of time, I'm just going to put in random answers here, matching answers, and then you will see my score at the end, which are probably pretty abysmal. And then finish attempt, and you'll get to see my score. Submit and finish. And said analysts received a 0.08 points out of the possible 2, so 4%, pretty abysmal. But for the purposes of this, it works. Now, for the final one, the current event submission, the teacher in this case prescribed a article here that the analyst would go to, and then just so you know that it's a live link, and then they would go in and then type up a brief summary of what they believe the article is about and why it's important. So I will just type in, for time's sake, sample here and submit. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to log out of the sample user and log in as an admin, which in this case would be one of the local leaders that would be assigning and verifying training here. So he or she has the exact same course that they keep track of, but they have a way to transparently view the grades from all participants. Currently there are 3, and Demo Q is the analyst that we just walked through, who has completed in total 0.08 out of a possible 4, because the completion acknowledgement and the professional rating, we did it, but we didn't check off those blocks. So it would be 2.08 out of a possible 4 points. So if depending on what the monthly minimum was, that would either meet or not meet the continuing education requirements. And if it did not meet, the user would have to go back through, retake the same quizzes, re-review the same articles, whatever it was that was prescribed for that month, thus validating the proof of concept that this type of system can be administered locally, can be administered quickly, can be administered easily, and then a local leader with not necessarily a whole lot of technical proficiency can view the status of their internal analysts and verify completion or not. Okay. And then, so just in the final minutes here, some functionality notes. With just a user account, an administrator account, you can administer their local site for their subordinate analysts, create new courses, manage courses, rotate around where lectures are, upload pre-formatted SCORN lectures if you so choose. And all the functionality here, this didn't take very long to set up. Some of the content took a lot longer, and then the idea behind it took some time. But once it's established and prescribed by the Army, this all-source analysis continuing education learning management system, of which this is a prototype, pretty seamless. So with that, I believe we've completed the items on our agenda here, and I'm about to run out of time. So I think that completes my briefing, and I thank you for your time. And again, thank you.